Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of You Can Exhale Now podcast. Today, I am excited to host Shin-Di Lai, who is a licensed acupuncturist and RN. She has an acupuncture business and treats many conditions, including fertility, women's health, pain, and general health and wellness to boost the immune system and increase well being. Welcome to You Can Exhale Now, a mindful living podcast for the modern pace, hosted by Lesia Liu. This podcast is for anyone who wants to get more out of life without the burnout. Because when you learn to take proper care of yourself, you have more energy, a more positive outlook, and more gratitude for life. And because you cannot reach your goals if you're tired, overwhelmed, judgmental, angry, and feel sorry for yourself. Each episode, you will learn actionable strategies for self-care, mental health, productivity, better life-work balance, and happiness from coaches, therapists, and experts. Stop holding your breath. You can exhale now. Choose to be a more authentic version of yourself than you've been in a while. Shin-Di, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming onto the show. So why don't you tell us more about yourself and what you do, and let's get into acupuncture and what that is and what's the methodology behind it.
Sure, yes. I am, as you said, I'm a licensed acupuncturist and nurse. I have been practicing for about 8 years. I'm an LA native, so I'm in the San Fernando Valley. I practice in Encino. I am also a school nurse at Sierra Canyon School, and I get to work with little kiddos from pre-K to sixth grade, which is always very fun. In my acupuncture practice, I do specialize in fertility. So, couples and individuals who want to try to conceive naturally to IVF and artificial reproductive technology, all of that I definitely assist with. And the other aspect or the other spectrum of my practice, I do work with athletes, a decent amount of athletes from teenagers to adults. And one of the main overall therapies that I like to also implement with all of my clients is immune system wellness and prevention. The ideology behind that is the stronger your immune system is means the better your body is working, so you have more stamina and capabilities and abilities to withstand daily life and sports and being out in the world and just being able to kind of have a good defense mechanism in the body.
Yeah. So I know that acupuncture has been around for thousands and thousands of years, and there is lots of research that talks about the benefits of acupuncture, and yet a lot of people, I think, still think that it's more of a placebo effect more than anything else. So, can you speak a little bit about the methodology, the science behind acupuncture, and how that helps us not only with physical health but also mental health?
hmm Yeah, so definitely it's been around for 3,000 years. I think it's probably been around longer than that. We just know up to about 3,000 years. So it is very ancient. Um, it's also something that, because it's so ancient, I almost feel like that's one of the reasons why it's not, it's overlooked a little bit more, but it does have a lot of holistic benefits for individuals and for all of us. The methodology behind it is that when you put the needle in to the body, there is a certain amount of stimulation that occurs in your body, right? So, for example, you put a needle in, it'll penetrate the skin. That kind of activates your body's defense system. Oh, there's something foreign here. We need to activate our system to try to fight it. But that's not to say that we're putting bacteria or something that is bad into the body. It's just it triggers a little bit of an immune system and a little bit of an immune response. So by that measure, you're able to kind of work on your immune system, because your immune system is always being worked and triggered, and um, it's always working on something, or it's being utilized in some way, shape, or form. And the whole idea behind acupuncture is when you the overall picture is balance, 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 right? So the balance that you have, it allows for your body to work optimally. That means your organs are working properly, everything is functioning the way it's supposed to, and therefore, if there's any type of pathogen, if there's any type of external factor that may affect your body is able to withstand it. Your body is able to fight it off. So, for example, if you have common cold, that's an external thing, right? You might come in contact with something that gets you sick, and the bacteria or the pathogen enters your body. How well your immune system is going to be able to either shorten the duration of the cold, or your symptoms just will not get that terrible and you won't feel as bad. And so, how strong your immune system plays a factor in that. Acupuncture over time can help strengthen your immune system. But let's say if you do have a cold, you can come in and get a treatment for those symptoms, and it can also shorten the duration because it is also helping your body combat the pathogens and the external factors.
Absolutely. And I think immunity right now is such a hot topic with everything that's going on in the world and COVID-19. So I think that's a very timely modality that people can try. But I know that acupuncture is more than just sticking needles randomly into your
Yes.
spots, right? Or different kind of placements of needles, and that plays an important role in it as well. Can you speak a little bit about that part of acupuncture and what are the right, I guess, placements? What are
Mhm.
simulating just different placements of the needles?
Yeah. So the cool thing about acupuncture and Chinese medicine is each point where the acupuncture needle goes to has a certain function. There are point prescriptions that practitioners will develop depending on what you are coming in for. So the point prescription is an overall, what are we working on? What are the points that are necessary to help counterbalance everything that we are working on? So, for example, if you come in for a headache, there are certain patterns that each client will come in with. You and I could have a headache, right? You could have a headache in the temporal area on the sides of your forehead. I could have a headache that's either on the top of my head or the front of my head. And they follow different patterns. Therefore, there are different points that we would individually get to help correct the imbalance that is creating that headache. So each point has its own function, but altogether, each practitioner can use anywhere between 1 and however many needles. I know I've personally used 20, 30, 40 needles in a patient before, which sounds like a lot, but it does go from head to toe. But all of the points together create a prescription that helps combat whatever ailment or symptom the client is coming in for. And where acupuncture is also really helpful is, like you're saying, it is really good for mental and emotional health as well. Um, Chinese medicine definitely has a spiritual, emotional component and factor of where the medicine was created from. So the cool thing is, if you think about 3,000 years ago, there was no technology, there were no machines, there were no gadgets or anything. This was all done pre like industrial time, right? So a lot of the quote unquote forefathers that we had who developed or helped develop Chinese medicine were essentially able to press a certain point on their body and therefore feel the function of that point. And that's how the system was developed. So that's how connected, if you want to say, how connected, how grounded, they were in themselves with themselves, with the universe, with nature, whatever you want to call it. But there definitely was that aspect that Chinese medicine was developed in. So people will ask me oftentimes, oh, well, what can you come in for? Or like, what does acupuncture help with? And I always tell people, without sounding biased, it can really help with anything. We all have stress. The stress can cause imbalances like sleep issues, lack of energy, fatigue, headaches, abdominal issues, digestive issues, hormonal issues. And so while we can treat each symptom, a lot of times it's addressing that stress, right? How does the stress affect your body? That's one thing. But what are you thinking? What's creating that stress? What emotion is coming up? And these are all things that we can address with acupuncture and Chinese medicine, which makes it so holistic. You don't have to have a physical issue in order to come in. You can tell me you are angry. Great, let's work on your anger. I am grieving. I just lost somebody. I feel at loss. I have a lot of fear. I have a lot of anxiety. These are all emotions that I can address that don't necessarily require you to go see a psychiatrist or a psychologist to get some type of prescribed medication. We can easily acknowledge the emotion and then basically treat it, even though it's through the physical body. These points do help on a mental emotional level as well.
I really love this holistic approach to, your body, your mind, all of it kind of being intertwined and working together.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this. You've mentioned all of these different emotions, and stress, of course, plays a huge role in all of our lives. So how does this affect you somatically, right? Because you said we can treat all these different emotions and feelings through basically putting needles into your body. So I think there's some kind of somatic aspect to it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, as you address it, I think sometimes just acknowledging or having the space to acknowledge the emotion is helpful. I'm not going to say it solves everything, but if you think maybe if there's issues that you have with family, friends, coworkers, whatever the reason is or where it comes from, we oftentimes do not have the space to be able to express it. And so on one level, when clients come in to see me, I like to be able to just create the space for each individual to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling, without any judgment, without thinking it's weird or anything, but for it to be a safe space for someone to just be able to express it. I personally like to, call it nosy or curious, but I do like to ask a lot of questions in terms of where it comes from and why, to understand it and to understand the bigger picture. And so I think oftentimes when you go through the emotional treatment, if we're working specifically on thoughts, feelings, opinions, emotions, there's a sense of release that can come of the treatment. The a certain amount of relaxation that your body feels, that gets you to check out from the the inner voice, the inner talk, the negative thoughts. With time, each treatment builds on top of each other. So you come in one time, you'll feel a certain way. The next time or the next few times you come in builds on top of being able to check out, being able to feel relaxed, being able to feel empty, being able to feel a release in your body that you get to carry with you because you actually feel it. You get to carry that out into the world with you. And with each treatment, it builds on top of each other. And over time, it corrects that issue for you.
Mm-hmm. And, going back to this holistic view of our body, and I know that acupuncture and Chinese medicine, are also very big on nutrition, on the foods we eat, on the herbs we, inject into our bodies, all kinds of supplements. So can you speak about, kind of how can one support their acupuncture practice, or if they don't do acupuncture, how from Chinese medicine standpoint can we improve our well-being and our immune system through foods, herbs, and supplements?
Mm-hmm. So especially now, I mean, this is a big conversation that I've been having with a lot of clients, because, with this whole COVID-19, everyone's like, how do we boost our immune system? How do we better our physical bodies? And I think the general picture that I'm going to throw out is self-care. Okay. But I think with food in general, I think the easiest way to explain it is eat food, not eat wholesome food and wholesome nutrition. Don't eat the stuff that just tastes good temporarily. Go for the stuff that actually has nutrition. So your protein, your veggies, your fruits. Oftentimes this does look like foods that you have to cook, foods that you have to prepare. But the time that you take to prepare the food is a time that you're investing in yourself. And that in itself is taking care, is self-care, and it's worth the investment and the effort. But protein, veggies, fruits, your veggies and your fruits definitely have a lot of your vitamins and your minerals, and over time, those are going to really help boost your immune system. In Chinese medicine, or not even in Chinese medicine, but there is that saying where you are what you eat. And the better food that you eat, the more nutrition your body is going to pull. More nutrition means your body is going to be strengthened, your body is going to be nourished. Your body is going to have the adequate amount of vitamins and nutrients that it needs to be able to work as best as possible. So on a food level, as hard for some people as it is, go for the actual wholesome nutrition that may require time and preparation. But the protein, the veggies, and the fruits, focus on that. In terms of supplements, we want to look at things that also build the immune system. And there's so many out there that everybody can take. I don't suggest taking 50 different pills every day because that can be very toxic and very taxing on your body as well. But there are some basic ones, like vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc. Those all help provide building blocks for your immune system. So if you want your body to, all your cells to basically be able to form in a way and also allow your immune system to be triggered and also function optimally, those are probably some of the best ones that you can take. I live in California where there's plentiful sun. It's actually really hot today as well. So there's a lot of sun and you can get your vitamin D from it. But a lot of folks are, unfortunately, vitamin D deficient. And vitamin D actually does provide a lot of immune support. And so if you can't go outside, or if for any reason you can't sit outside because of dermatological issues, or it's not good for you to sit in the sun for too long, and you can't get your 10 to 15 minutes per day, then I would say supplement with some vitamin D. But it is one that is important and commonly overlooked. Other supplements out there are like, airborne. If you want to take airborne on a daily basis just as prevention, cool, take that. If you want to take emergency, take a couple packs a day, that's totally fine. The main thing about taking any supplements is you want to be consistent with it. You don't want to take too many at a time because, again, like I said, it can be toxic and taxing on your digestive system. But you do want to take it for an extended period of time. To start with a couple weeks to a few months in order for you to really allow the effects of the supplements to take place. I think sometimes folks will take it for a little bit And our Western trained minds might sometimes think, oh, if we take this for a couple days, then, the problem should be fixed. But usually with supplements, we got to look the long term.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And, again, with the current situation and COVID-19 and people quarantining, it is challenging to go to acupuncture, right? So, what other kind of alternative modalities do you suggest for people stuck at home? What can we do at home to help us boost our immune system, boost our well-being, both physical and mental?
Yes. Um, one of the important things, I think, now more than ever is having a self-care plan. I know I mentioned that just a couple minutes ago. But I think now more than ever, coming up with a self-care plan is very, very important, because we are stuck at home, left to our own thoughts. And sometimes those can be very negative, and sometimes they can weigh down on us and give us a lot of pressure. For us doers who like to get things done, not being able to get things done can be very challenging because it makes us feel unproductive, and that affects, our mind, our self-esteem, our self-worth. And unfortunately, there's this like trickle effect that can happen.
Right.
Exactly. So, self-care plan, and this is something that is very individually based. So you and I could say, yes, we're going to come up with a self-care plan. However, your interests and my interests are different. So it's very important that the self-care plan is customized and realistic to what you can implement on a consistent basis. I always tell my clients, listen, let's come up with a plan for you to relax or take it easy, or come up with a self-care plan. But what works for you? Because I go to the gym, or I used to go to the gym 4 to 6 times a week. That's not realistic for some people. Some people just don't work out. And so maybe starting once a week or twice a week is more realistic, right? Something at home. I go to therapy. Some people don't go to therapy. Some people, there's some stigma that is surrounded that. They don't have access to that. They can't pay for it, financial reasons. Whatever the reason is, it's just something that they don't do. So, okay, can they write? Can they color? Can they do adult coloring books? Can they set up ways to talk to friends? Set up a time to talk to the person that they can go to for everything, their friend that they can go to for everything, even if it's just half an hour. So making it as tangible and realistic for each individual is a very important component, because you don't want to set yourself up and say, I'm going to do all of this stuff when you normally didn't do it. There's a really good chance that you set yourself up for failure because it wasn't something that you implemented before. And unless you're taking the necessary steps to develop new habits, you oftentimes get lost in it. And what I don't want is for people to feel overwhelmed or feel even more stressed or feel like they're failing because they couldn't do XYZ things that they set up. So that's a self-care plan. But some specifics could be do an at-home workout, right? You don't have to have all of the gym equipment. We can do body weight squats. We can do single leg squats. We can do push-ups. Some folks who do have the equipment, go ahead and do that. Just some type of movement, because movement gets our circulation going. It gets our blood moving. It triggers our immune system because it's going to flush out any of the toxins. It's going to flush out any of the lactic acid from the workout. So movement is very important, especially also since we are pretty much sitting at home in quarantine. We don't have that much space to go. So just making at least a mental note to move multiple times during a day is fine and is great. Some simple mental, emotional writing, journaling, talking to friends, coloring books, podcast, meditation, praying, sitting in silence, hug a tree for my tree huggers, whatever it is, pick something that you can do and that you already do. And if you want to pick up something new, do one thing at a time and make sure you establish the habit of doing it. so that you don't, overwhelm yourself and stress yourself out by doing too much. And, I've also had some folks do telemedicine with me. And there are certain like I can teach acupuncture points if you want to work on circulation, if you want to work on relaxation. Where are some points that you can press on? How many times you can do it? There are certain points on the body that are better for this emotion versus that emotion. And so sometimes just checking in, if you do acupuncture, checking with your acupuncturist to learn those points is really helpful as well.
I love that. I think this is a great modality, and I love your focus on being realistic, because I think so many of us are trying to take on too much, and then of course we most of the time we fail,
Mhm.
and we think that there's something wrong with us, when in reality we just bit way too much, that more than we can chew.
Right.
Love that. So how you said that the self-care needs to be pretty personalized, and I agree with that. I think the important point about any self-care is that you have to enjoy it. It should not be a task, right? Another to do item on your list, but more as a thing that you just enjoy, that you want to do, because that feels good both physically and mentally.
Yes.
um, can you speak a little bit more about how can we develop that self-care plan where um, it's really integrated into our lifestyle, and we truly stick to it for the long term?
Yeah. Um, I think giving yourself the space and asking yourself the questions like, what is going to make Shindy feel safe, feel loved, feel secure? What is going to be fun for Shindy? How does Shindy feel right now? Like, does she want to go do this right now, or does she not want to go do that right now? Right. And really kind of um, giving less into the outside noise and paying more attention to what is going on the inside. Again, we are sitting in at home with nothing to do, less thing I want to say nothing to do, but less things to do, and the news, Netflix shows, Hulu, the crazy amount of social media that is out there. um, we have more time to access that, but I think that accessing that too much is what is also creating a lot of uh, uh, um, negative thought processes within us. And also, it takes us away from ourselves. It takes us away from asking ourselves and checking in with ourselves about how we feel and what we want to do and whatever comes up. So I think first and foremost, I don't know, developing a ritual where each day you wake up, you ask yourself, what's one thing we might want to do today? How are we feeling today? Check in with yourself like you would your friend. Check in with yourself like you would, someone that you care about, right? Because you are first and foremost important. So that is one thing. And then two, give yourself time. And what I mean by that is it doesn't need to be a task where you have to come up with an answer right now in 5 minutes. This could take a day. This could take a week. But as long as you're putting in the effort to really recognize and honor yourself and listen to yourself and check in with yourself, I think that's the best thing that we can do for ourselves. For example, my doers, my doers who like to get things done, who I consider the ones who make the world go round. We are freaking out about not being able to do anything. So there might be a day where we're going crazy trying to find something to do. Sometimes you have to check in with yourself and just say, okay, today might be a day where I don't do anything, and be okay with that. But as long as you're checking in with yourself, right? Like as long as you're giving yourself that space. And so it's going to look different for everybody. So asking yourself the questions, giving yourself the space and time to really develop that, to really check in with yourself, getting to know yourself on a personal level again in that way, is really helpful. We do come from a time where, our daily lives were hustling and moving and going and going and going and doing and doing and doing. And now we're in this place where things almost feel like they have completely stopped. So I can't stress that internal dialogue enough, because I think where before we were able to become distracted and we were distracted by outside noise, we now have that to deal with. And also we have less of the distractions like our work, our families, our, go, go, go lifestyle, our social life, and all of that stuff. Um, and so it does start with, what do you want? What's going to make you feel safe? What's going to make you feel loved? What is going to allow you to have fun? Um, and it could just be one thing a day. I just named 10 different things that you could do on a mental emotional level. It does not mean that you have to get all 10 things done. Those are all the different things that you could utilize. But in a day, you could just do one or two, or you could just take 5 minutes, or you could just take 10 minutes. And so if you need to also set this up where you talk to someone about it, or you talk to your best friend about it, hey, can we sit down and I just want to talk over things that I might want to do, or I want to, develop a self-care plan. People might make fun of you. People might be like, what in the heck is going on with you? But at the end of the day, it's a very necessary component that's going to allow you to develop a coping portfolio, develop coping skills to get through each day and each moment, that is going to push you, and help you through the day. So while if you want specifics, I can give specifics, but I think, to answer your question, it was a lot of just kind of sitting down and kind of looking at it in a different perspective, because again, we had a lot of distractions and outside noise, that we could, get by with, but now we're having to sit still and things have stopped, and a lot of modalities that we used to utilize are gone. We don't go to the restaurants as much, we don't go to nightclubs, we can't go to the movies, we don't go to the mall. So a lot of these external things that we used to do have stopped, and now we're forced to deal with ourselves. I think being kind and gentle, to ourselves by giving us the time to really sit and get to know ourselves on this level now, is probably one of the best bets.
I completely agree, and I think not only Chinese medicine, but any of those ancient modalities and knowledge that was passed, thousands and thousands of years down the generations, all of them have this like focus on what's going on inside of you, your internal world, and checking in with that on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I guess my last question is, in this situation and this panic, I guess people are just lost, and sometimes what we are coping with inside of us can be overwhelming. Like you said, doers don't know where to apply themselves. I came across people who, they cannot lay down for an hour for a massage or acupuncture or do yoga for an hour because they feel like something is going to happen in that hour while they're just laying there naked or something. So what do you say to those people who are struggling with that the most right now?
Yeah, I think that, again, I always come back to balance, right? So, look to see where are those triggers coming from? What is causing, or what is fueling the panic, and, the fear? What is fueling all of that? And again, this probably will take a personal conversation. It'll take some time, some internal dialogue, to really figure out what that is. And so, I think acknowledging that the fear, the frustration, the emotions are there is really important. But then to, instead of giving into it or reacting to it, maybe asking, okay, what can I do to either distract myself from that, or what can I do that is going to allow me to utilize that energy in a productive way. So I could sit here and say, I'm freaking out about, what the future of acupuncture treatments are going to look like. And the fear or the frustration, the pressure, the heaviness could make me not be productive and make me sit more still. And the fear can make me literally, it could literally debilitate me to where I don't do anything because I'm constantly thinking about, oh my gosh, there's this fear. What's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And instead, then say, okay, well, then what can I do that is any type of productive, right? Or what can I do that is that might counterbalance the fear? I might go do something that will go distract where I can distract myself. Um, Maybe I can sit and meditate for 10, 15 minutes. Maybe I can call a friend and just express it and say, oh, you know what? I'm super, I have a lot of fear about this, but I want to check in with someone about it and just to get it out of your system. Um, or I can look at it and say, okay, there are some classes that I wanted to take. Let's take some classes and let's channel that fear into something that I use as energy to be productive in some other way. Because the fear was making me sit still and not feel like I could do anything. And so what did I do? I ran to it and I did the complete opposite where now I'm doing something. And so, just know that it is it's very common and it is okay to feel what you feel, because again our lives pretty much just stopped and we didn't have a warning. No one really said, hey, this is going to happen, and be prepared for it. And so acknowledging it and knowing that it's okay to feel the way you do, I think, is the first step. But then how and what can we do to channel that negative energy into something positive? And that looks different for each person. But just a simple question like that without having to come up with this huge masterpiece or huge master plan of taking over the world.
Yeah. And I think, any huge plan of taking over the world starts with taking care of ourselves and our physical bodies and our mental state and all of that together.
Yes, agree, for sure.
Great. So I guess my last question is, hopefully we'll go back to normal eventually, sooner rather than later.
Yes, please.
Then, how often do you recommend something like acupuncture? Is it safe to do it every week? Is even like once a month enough? Um, what's like the recommended um, amount of acupuncture that you can take?
Mm-hmm. You can definitely do it on a weekly basis. I do suggest for when you are starting acupuncture as some type of therapy for you to come in weekly. There are some cases, usually with fertility or with pain, where I will suggest for some folks to come in either consecutive days or multiple times during a week, because there's a specific goal that we are trying to meet within a certain amount of time. But in general, when you start with acupuncture, and this could be for anything, go on a weekly basis. And really utilize that time to check out from life. Life is waiting for you outside of the door, outside of the room, outside of the clinic, but really utilize that time to either check in with yourself or relax. Don't think about life or anything like that. Usually when I leave the room, I usually tell my clients, okay, I don't want you thinking about life. I don't want you thinking about your cat. I don't want you thinking about your left toe. All of that is waiting for you outside of the door. Um, and let that be the space for you to really get connected with yourself again. If it's cupping that you're utilizing as well, usually weekly is okay as well. Sometimes with the cupping marks that you get, I personally like to wait until all of those marks are gone. So that could be a little bit over a week. So maybe the next time they come in the following week, we might not be able to do it, but the following time we can do that. And some folks do come in for maintenance, right? It literally is just a check-in place for them to come to it's a check-in modality that you utilize. So I do have some people who come in on a monthly basis, or every 2 weeks. And then I have some folks who also come in really during season changes, because the season changes energetically, they get sick a lot. And so they come in for immune boosting, so that during those season transitions, they don't get sick, or they don't, they aren't susceptible to getting sick. But I would say be consistent as much as possible with acupuncture for at least 3 months, because you'll really be able to see the changes and the effects of acupuncture. I'm not saying that that's how long it takes for you to feel it, but in the course of 3 months, your schedule would have changed. Certain events may have come up. Work life gets busy, family life gets busy, and so there's 3 months there for you to kind of figure out and try to be consistent with acupuncture. So for at least 3 months, try to be as consistent as possible.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, Shin-Di, thank you so much for this conversation. I think it was really deep and meaningful, and I hope that our listeners got a little bit more excited and a little bit more motivated to look within themselves and listen to their own bodies. And hopefully, we'll get through all of this together.
Yes, we will. We will be together. We are in this together, and we will find a way. We will win.
Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you've learned a lot of new strategies. Be sure to check out the notes below this episode for additional resources and tools mentioned in today's show. I would love to keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts and takeaways with me on social media channels wherever you are. And do not forget to tag me. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you, and I will see you on the next episode. If this podcast has helped you even a little bit, please leave a review and subscribe so that we can help spread the message together.